Hello YouTube, welcome back to the channel. Here I am sitting with the #1 paid out prop firm trader in funding company history, I would say, for futures. We have Kane Trades here. He just took out a $1.8 million payout from Apex.
Yeah, so singular payout wise, 1.86 million. Total payout across Apex, like 2.1. Actually 2.25. And then across the board, like it's coming up to just over 3.
What's your favorite thing to trade?
NASDAQ, 100%. I don't really trade ES. I use ES for confirmation that we aren't like ES. I prefer to trade NASDAQ, but I favor the bias that ES gives because of the volume that ES actually brings to the market. So if ES is more bearish and NASDAQ's pulling higher, I would typically treat that as NASDAQ manipulation. But I trade the NASDAQ because the volatility on it's higher and I can get a quicker move and I can be out of my trade faster.
Do you look at the Dow at all while you're trading NASDAQ?
No, not at all. I don't think YM provides any confirmation or bias to my model. And there are various times where Nasdaq's down 100 points on the day and Dow's up 10.
Okay.
So
Yeah, they're always
inverse.
yeah, inversely
Yeah.
correlated typically. So I think you said that you trade London session and the New York AM session. Which one of those two is your favorite?
Oh, that's tough actually. I would say New York AM because of the volume injection. I like them both probably equally, but just for different reasons, and that's kind of probably controversial. London is very slow and you can kind of catch a move and stay in the move for most of the session. And then New York AM session typically just accelerates through or reverses. So I can play 10 a.m. reversal, or I can play New York OTE, continuation. So I think the both of them kind of give me my bias for the day. But there are several times where my London trade will be like bottom or top of the day.
Okay.
So it really depends. But if it's a range bound day, I don't really care because I know that we're just gonna be range bound and until we break out of that, I can just trade that. But yeah, I would say equally the same for different reasons. But I trade New York AM session more. I don't trade London sessions on Mondays or Fridays. I only trade New York session, London session, sorry, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and then New York session pretty much the rest of the week.
So then how many trades do you typically take a day?
1 to 3, average 2. Um, if I get two losses, I'm done. If I get a win in London, I won't trade London anymore. And if I get a win in New York, I won't trade New York anymore. So, but if I get a loss in New York, I would then, if my model presented itself, I'd take another trade. But then that would obviously give me my 2 losses or my 2 wins for the session.
So if you get a win during London, will you then trade New York and look for a win also?
Yeah, because I can just grab either the reversal or the continuation.
Okay.
So yeah,
If you could only trade one time frame for the rest of your life, what would it be?
the M15.
I actually agree with that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's a
100.
nice midpoint.
Yeah, it's nice because it gives you, it's just like not enough noise to kind of get out of your head. But like it's enough noise to understand what the chart is doing. Like the hourly chart, you have to wait a whole hour for the candle to print and give you a bias, or is it going to close outside of the range, is it not? Where the M15 almost, in my experience, confirms that before it prints the H1, typically because it has to. So, um, but yeah, to add on to that, my favorite period of time to trade though is what people call macro times, hourly 4 hour closes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Cool. I
yeah,
agree. Those are my favorite. I like the 10 a.m. macro the most, I would say.
yeah. 10 a.m. for me, the most profitable trade I have is 10 a.m. reversal.
Yeah.
Like 10 a.m. sweeps 9 a.m. high, and then we pull back into the range or pull back into 9 a.m. close, 10 a.m. open, or typically discount. That's kind of my model. That's it.
Wow, dropping some
Yeah.
hitting gems right there, you guys. Pay attention. You said that you always risk the same amount of contract sizing. You don't do it based on percentage.
Yeah.
So even if it's higher volatility, your risk is then going to be higher, but your reward's also higher. So how do you typically go about accepting that risk in your mind?
So the way that I measure my success is my participation in the market.
Mhm.
So typically I will always trade with a static size dependent on my balance. So it's not static in the fact that it will never change. It's just if my balance goes up or down, my risk based on my balance increases. It's not a percentage of balance, it's normally a round figure. Um, but I will always trade that. Volatility wise, if the VIX is over a certain percentage, I would just de-risk because I
Mhm.
can catch a larger move in a short period of time because I'm expecting price to be volatile. But on a traditional day, I'll trade with the same amount of contracts because if I catch a 200 tick move or a 100 tick move, they will just be double the size. One will be half of the size of the other because I will measure my participation in the market. I typically don't like to increase my size based on my stop loss, um, because just like to progressively scale my accounts. I can aggressively scale at times, and discretionary risk is definitely a factor of things. Um, but yeah, as standard, I just like to be static risk in the market because then I know that when I approach the charts, I don't have to think about my contract sizing. I want to get in here. This is my contract sizing. Done. I'm in. This is my stop loss. This is my validation.
Mhm.
And it allows me to be tighter on my stop losses and get into my trades at the most optimal time. Where if I dynamically increase my or decrease my risk based on my stop loss size, I have bigger stops.
Right.
And I don't like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you typically try to keep the stop loss around the same size since you're taking the higher, I mean, the same contract sizing?
Yeah, around 25 points, 100 ticks, like
But like
either
when
or.
there's higher volatility, how
Yeah.
do you approach that then?
As in like elections, for example. Like
For example, now your stop loss maybe from to the swing low or wherever your stop typically would be, maybe it's a 30 point or
30
40.
points I'd be fine with. If it was like 50, no way. I
You're
wouldn't
not
I,
just not going to take the trade then. Okay.
no, because it's just
Yeah,
I missed the move in my head.
I agree.
Yeah, so my like I have two types of trades. I have a reversal and a continuation, and the reversal trade is always in the hourly wick or the 4 hour wick.
Okay.
It's like, and then price if I don't get in that wick, I don't want to be in that trade.
And do you ever feel any sort of FOMO anymore, or how did you ever fight that when you did miss the move?
Um, I do like for example on Friday the move kind of moved without me quite aggressively, and I was like, oh, it's annoying. I'm not getting in this trade, but like I just accept it, and if we come back to it, we come back to it, and if my draw is hit before if we draw too far and I can't, my model then says we shouldn't come back to my entry, i.e. if I was in the trade, I would be break even. I should not be in, I won't be in that trade. So it's all, the only time I'm ever really canceling my order is if my model tells me that I should be break even if I was in the trade. And if I'm not, if it's not, then my limit just sits there until, until news happens or something like that. Then I would just take the trade off the table because I don't want to get into a massive volatile move and just get entry stop loss because that's not good for anyone. Um, and then the times when I did really suffer with FOMO, like early on in my career, um, I just had to, you just have to mess up a few times and lose quite a bit of money to the point where you're just like, I can't keep doing this.
Mm-hmm.
What are my rules? How am I going to do that? And then you build your model, you back test it, you get the confidence in it, and it allows you to really progress in the market and be accountable to yourself. Um, and I think I always have in my head that I trade to work less, and I don't want to be at my charts more than I would if I was to work a 9 to 5. And I think a lot of people would just sit and stare at their charts 12 hours a day just waiting for a setup. Where if you have a model, you should be able to look at the chart and just say, oh yeah, my model's about to appear, or it's not. And if you can't do that, you haven't put the work in enough.
I agree. Like sometimes you can look at the chart and just know, oh, it's not going to happen. I'm going to step away and just maybe put an alert or check later on my phone, but it's probably not going to happen this session just by the way that the candles are forming on the time on the hourly and the 4 hour time frame,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I don't use alerts because for me, I'm at my chart for 2 3 hours a session, or in the London it's an hour and a half, and in New York it's typically an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours.
Okay.
If I'm in a trade, maybe two and a half.
Okay.
But after that, I just don't care what happens in the charts.
Okay, so no matter what, if it hits your price level, well, like a little later in your session, and it's not within that time, you don't care, and you're not going to come back to the charts essentially.
No, because I know from a probabilities and statistical perspective, after 11:30, my model is not as profitable. So
Well said, honestly. I think a lot of people struggle with that. You used to trade crypto. Why did you move from crypto to indices?
yeah, so my journey goes FX crypto back to FX and then to indices, specifically futures. So I would say my trading journey being FX wasn't really trading too much. It was kind of just getting scammed in the industry.
Okay.
Um, and then moved to crypto, made a bunch of money, and then the long but short story is I got rugged by FTX, so I lost about $700,000. Um, that number changes in my head day to day, but uh, yeah, circa 700 to $1 million. So um, yeah, I'll get my claim back eventually, but kind of forced me to take a bit of a reset. And then yeah, pivoted back to FX. Obviously, highly regulated industry. Didn't want to get burnt twice, and then pivoted to futures because I think FX is highly manipulative from a spread and broker perspective. So the regulation from a futures perspective really was what attracted me to futures.
Wow. Yeah. So after you got like rug pulled for 700,000, is that when you took your 4 month break?
Yeah, yeah. I took so I got rug pulled in November of 2022, and then took a break and returned early 23.
Wow. Okay. So during that time, did you ever think about like quitting trading for good or no?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I kind of gone on the journey of like making a lot of money, losing a lot of money. My life was kind of indifferent from the period of when I started to when it kind of got to that point. And it was very much a point of I invested a lot of time here. I could just quit and my life is not really any different now, apart from the fact that I don't have the money that I previously had. Um, but obviously I kind of gained a skill in my head at the time. It's just like
Hmm.
I can use the skill to then build that money up. And throughout that journey, I'm going to get that 700K back at some point because
Okay.
the FTX claims and the the bankruptcy proceedings are going to ensure that I get that back.
Okay. Got it. Like one last thing I thought was really interesting when we were talking earlier was your journaling protocol. Can you talk a little bit about that? And
Yeah, so I have two journaling protocols, personal journal and trading journal. My trading journals are I only really journal my bad trades now.
Mhm.
Um, and understand why I broke the rules I did because ultimately I'm human. I'm not like perfect in the market all of the time. I understand like what factors that kind of contributed to that. Bad day, no sleep, wasn't feeling great, lack of coffee, whatever that is. I just kind of look to improve that and keep to my specific routine. And then outside of that, my personal journal. Um, is I just journal once a month, first of the month before sunrise, um, and I just journal about the month from a personal and a business perspective, and then I just finish it with a letter to myself for the next month, and then every month I read the previous letter and journal, and then move on with my month, and it's just been a game changing for me because I can reflect and project what I want to see. And then that really plays into like law of attraction stuff for me, which I really subscribe to.
right. Okay. Well, I'm feeling super inspired, you guys. I hope you are too. You be sure to give Kane a follow. Where can they follow you?
Twitter underscore Trader Kane. That's the main one. And then I have a YouTube channel, just Trader Kane. There's one video. That's it.
Awesome. Thanks for coming and make sure to like and subscribe to the video and please head on over to Kane's channel and Twitter. He drops gems. I am so inspired, I'm telling you,
Thanks,
honestly.
Tanja.
We're leveling up on this channel.